I'm currently about 12 or 13 seasons into The Simpsons, and looking back on all of the Treehouse of Horrors, I think the sixth Treehouse of Horror, which airs in the seventh season, is actually the sixth episode, which is quite far in to the season compared to when it normally occurs. I think this has to be one of my favourites because all three of the main segments completely hit the mark. I thought they were absolutely fantastic. So I'll talk a little bit about them and what I liked about them. I won't go into too much detail so I won't spoil anything, but obviously I am kind of divulging what they're about. But for me, this is definitely, so far, one of my favourites. I am aware there are still quite a few more for me to watch, but I think it might be my favourite. So it was released in November 1995. As I said, it is usually Treehouse of Horror is like the second or third episode of a season. This aired quite after Halloween, but still relatively close, of course. Directed by Bob Anderson and David Mirkin. And I was going to say the kind of segments that David Mirkin directed, but I won't, because I won't, at least for now, I won't spoil that. But the first one, we have these giant advertising mascots coming to life. So mascots on billboards, 3D mascots, and I had a lot of fun with that. I'm a fan, maybe fan's not the right word, but I'm fascinated by advertising mascots. I think they're a brilliant bit of pop culture almost. Like Tony the Tiger, basically anything that Funko Pop could create as an advertising that mascot works very well. We have Tony the Tiger Funko Pops and Captain Crunch and things, and there are various characters that are popular in Simpsons advertising, and some that I have never seen before that came to life and began to quite wonderfully terrorize Springfield. And it just made me want to think about what that would be like if that actually happened, looking at the billboards around us and the posters and 3D plastic mascots and things that stand outside of shops. How, first of all, incredible would it be if they came to life, but also very terrifying. Homer plays an important part in this one, and particularly with one of the mascots. I won't say too much about that one, but I thought it worked very well. It was a very well-developed narrative. Some of the mascots had motives. I could understand the motives and what they were trying to do. Some of them were just causing chaos for the sheer fun of it, and it was chaotic, and honestly, start to finish, truly loved it. The second one is one that I adored because I'm a Freddy Krueger fan. Groundskeeper Willie takes on the guise of Freddy Krueger. He's wearing the striped jumper. He's got his rake that masquerades as Freddy Krueger's razor-sharp hands, and he looks the part. It's also very fascinating because the character of Freddy Krueger explored very well in the remake about what happened to Freddy Krueger and what made him want to terrorize those children in their dreams, well, when they became adults. I think that all fits in very nicely. Obviously, this was released before the 2010 remake, but for me, with the benefit of hindsight there, it's just brilliant. It's a lot of fun. There's some great humour in this. There's a great line about not touching Willie, which I absolutely loved. I like it when The Simpsons just say something really blunt, and you don't expect it, and I really enjoyed it. He looks the part. I do think you'll get more out of this particular one if you're a fan of Freddy Krueger or the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I think having that context just adds another layer. I'd like to know what you think of it if you've never seen any of the Krueger films, or if you're not a fan, of course, whether you liked this or got anything out of it. But personally, being a very big fan of the Elm Street films, I definitely adored Groundskeeper Willie. And the third one is one that I remembered very well. I've watched this episode twice over the last couple of years, the last time very recently, of course, but the other segments in this one I hadn't recalled from, my childhood, but the third one I remembered very well. I must have seen this one for the first time maybe 15 years ago, and Homer is trapped in another dimension. The narrative itself it's interesting enough. I won't say exactly what happens or how he gets there, but the reason this is really fascinating. And the reason, I guess, it stuck in my mind so vividly is because the style of animation switches. And it's not just animation, and I won't say any more than that. But visually, it is really fascinating. Clearly, the animators had a lot of fun with this one, I'm imagining. Homer looks very different. We get to see him interacting with different kinds of things. Yeah, I was slightly... Actually, I'll leave that opinion till the very end because it's a spoiler. But I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun watching it again. As I said, I remembered it very well, and it doesn't surprise me. Because it's a very, very strong segment. So, all three of them I absolutely adored. I think they're fabulous, brilliantly animated, very exciting concepts that are brilliantly executed. So, I guess a spoiler from now, I will just discuss what I was about to say with that final segment. So, spoiler warning. I love the fact that Homer's interacting with live action scenes. It's really different, really unique and fresh. But one thing that I didn't like about this is that there was no resolution. And normally that doesn't bother me. Because a lot of the Treehouse of Horrors don't have resolutions because they are horror segments. They're meant to be creepy and frightening. They're not meant to have happy endings. Some of them conclude quite well, some of them are more open-ended. But this one, I don't know why, but this one I really wanted a more conclusive ending, and it wasn't there, and I don't know why it bothers me with this one, but that's definitely something that's kind of always at the forefront of my mind when I watch this one, that if I had to have a point of criticism, I wish there had been a better conclusion. But other than that, really doesn't hamper my enjoyment whatsoever. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Treehouse of Horror 6 is, for me, utterly perfect.